Despite being sentenced to 60 years, Eric Holder's release date is actually about 15 years from now in 2039. Well, that's his earliest release date. And as you see, he's being held at a medical facility now. Does that mean he's under some mental health care treatment? Is that some type of PC? I'm not sure. Listen to what everybody says, like Brick Baby, somebody who I guess they have the same gang name, they're in the same gang family, and I think someone else mentioned it. He had a head injury, and they thought he was using various very hard drugs that may have made him act out. Now, a head injury alone will usually, well, it's something your lawyer will use to try to get you a lesser sentence. Now, Holder was sentenced to 60 years. I guess under California, let's see, he was in the county a couple years, got sentenced a year ago, might add up to 20 years. So maybe, are you eligible for a parole after 1/3 of your time? I thought it was a half time in California. But with the early parole date of 2039, that's only another 15 years. So even with this time in, that's less than 20 years. So that's less than a third of the sentence. I don't know, has he been resentenced or something since then? The number they gave out in the public was 60 years now. Of course, as of late, there's all these, well, I guess from the start, there was conspiracy theories about Big U had him hit, and I guess that makes for interesting internet fodder, but like I always say with these conspiracy theories, if there was any real evidence, if there was the slightest bit of evidence that anyone else was involved, you'd think the prosecutor wouldn't be more than happy to charge Big U or whoever else. I mean, that's what prosecutors exist for, to charge people. And if the Rolling 60s or any other one of these gangs was really operating like a organized crime ring where one guy was telling a bunch of people what to do, well, they'd be happy to indict them for RICO, because all over America, they're RICO crazy with gangs. Why do the LA gangs not get RICO'd very often? Now, of course, individuals in gangs and groups of gang members who do certain things get RICO cases, but why do you never see 80 Rolling 60s, 100 bounty hunters? Well, it's because LA street gangs do not exist to commit crimes. They're neighborhood organizations that have been around for a long time. All you really got to do to be in good standing in your gang is always be willing to fight. No one's going to make you kill somebody. They certainly don't exist to sell drugs. In fact, if you start selling a lot of drugs or being a successful pimp or any other type of criminal endeavor and you're in a gang, you're probably going to start distancing yourself from the gang because people in it may feel like you should be breaking bread with them. And people that are in those groups and do make money, they do break bread like a all for one, one for all, from what little I know. But the odds that Big U was involved in what? Sending Eric Holder in broad daylight to gun him down where he was clearly going to get caught? What sense would that make? Now, you can sit around and imagine all sorts of motives for Big U or anybody else to take out Nipsey, and you can listen to stories about this and that fight, and who knows if any of it's true. None of us were there, but by his own description, Nipsey Hussle was an active member of the Rolling 60s. He didn't say he was retired or anything. And when you're an active member of an LA street gang, who knows what might happen. You're subject to be a victim of violent crime. That's what it is. It's not a bowling team. So all of you so-called fans that are entertained by hearing guys talk about street tales and imply that they're still doing stuff and then act so shocked when something happens to them, what is it you think that being out in the streets or being an active member of a well-known street group here in LA is. I mean, it puts you in the line of fire. As for Eric Holder, all this talk about he was a snitch and shouldn't be in the hood, but it was kind of vague that Nipsey didn't say that to him, because I don't, well, from what I heard from some little birdies, there was another reason that Eric Holder was not in the neighborhood and hadn't been around for a while. He had done something inappropriate, some wild activities, and I don't mean with the kids or anything like that, like something that they were like, you can't be around here. You cause too many problems. He had popped back up recently, or, right before the event happened, and people were like surprised to see him. And that's why Nipsey probably said, you shouldn't be around here. If Holder was some informant in some case, wouldn't have somebody have put that online? So that whole little theory that he called him that word, there's no legs behind that. He said something to him, like, you shouldn't be around here. Holder hadn't been around there for years. Why did he pop back up? And that's where he's from. Didn't have anywhere to go. He was sick of not being around there. And this is why, for all of you young guys that's in the streets, in the street life, or think that you are, I guess it's fun and games for a while when you're young, but if someone is approaching the age of 30 or they're 30, and you're still floating around, you can't get a job, you got felonies, tattoos on your face. If you were somebody that was a criminal for making money, you'd already be doing that, or you'd be locked up. And many people, you don't have to quit the gang. You just stop doing, gang tough guy activities. You stop saying the gang name. For example, certain current or former members of gangs that have YouTube podcasts that have done well in LA or maybe in Chicago, if you notice after a while they stop, they might start with the name of the gang in their name, and then that goes away. Is it because someone threatened them or they were pressed? Well, I mean, if they're not active, that's fine, but why would you have the name of the gang? You can't use the brand name if you're not doing what comes with that. So Nipsey Hussle used the brand name of the group he was from as part of his marketing. And perhaps where some people felt like he should have done more, who knows? I don't know. But to send a guy like Eric Holder, who hadn't been around, who documented some type of brain injury, to send him to kill somebody in broad daylight doesn't seem to make any sense. And why would Holder not have told? What is he getting out of it? He just goes and does this on camera. Nobody helped him escape the country. It's not like, there was some... I'm sure if you're a gangster in LA and you want someone bumped off here, I'm sure that you can get somebody across the border to Mexico. I mean, the time I went to Tijuana, there was no one even at the border. We just walked across from San Diego. There was no guard at the border. You just walk into Tijuana. Coming back's a little different, but you just walk across. You don't even have to be smuggled across. Wouldn't there have been an escape plan for this guy? As somebody that, has lost a family member to death, and we all experience tragedies and accidents, you always want to look for an explanation. You don't want to think that bad things that happen, like your favorite rapper or someone you like, Nipsey Hussle, Tupac, whoever, that no, they just didn't get gunned down one night doing seemingly regular stuff, because that's kind of scary. It makes you think how random life is. Well, a lot of random things happen in life. And that's why you shouldn't be out hanging in the streets, because even more random things happen, because there's unhinged people like Eric Holder and others floating around. And on any given day, you might say the thing to them that triggers them or sets them off. So it doesn't seem like any big mystery to me. It seems like the police solved the case. If they had the slightest bit of evidence about anything else, they'd gladly charge. Remember, Big U's been to prison for wild activity. I think he was robbing drug dealers or something. He did a long time. They would gladly put him back in if he was doing something. As far as him working with the police, well, when I was in graduate school, I worked as something for the Center for Urban Studies, Wayne State in Detroit. And we would get different contracts to do data analysis for community groups, police. It's not like you have a meeting with the police. Like, you just do whatever you're doing for them. Many former gang members are in LA and Chicago. What other job? There's not many jobs for guys that have done long stretches of time or who don't have an employment history because they were doing other stuff than to work with in those communities where crime happens. It's not their job to solve any crimes. They're supposed to stop more from happening. I mean, isn't that a good thing? Or are you so entertained by violence in the hood or anywhere in America that you don't care? You want people to just do violence to each other. Then you act appalled and so shocked about it when it happens. But, I mean, this is the stuff that's entertaining you. What the Big U is doing with the GRID program is not anything out of the norm as far as what ex-offenders do all over the country. I guess they hire different guys, older guys that have been to prison or whatever in different neighborhoods, and they watch over football games and conduct kids to school. I mean, I don't know the specifics of what they do here, but that's a normal thing in every city. When the governor or mayors, or there's grant money from the federal government that goes to the police, there's pressure from the community that, well, you can't just give the police the money, right? They have to be part of, it's called stakeholders. So you might have a neighborhood block club, the church, ex-offenders, and they all might, the only time they come together, they have meetings that are they're open to the public. There's no secret meetings. So this is all very normal stuff. Now, what was going on behind the scenes? Who knows? What is interesting here in LA, because it's the entertainment capital, a lot of people, especially in rap music, which people want to use an air of danger to help market themselves. Guys want to come and do videos and hang out and be seen with gang members. And I know about all kind of oddball stories of, different things happening. But in my experience, it's more likely that a celebrity or an out-of-town person misuses a local, they cultivate sort of a fake friendship with people here, because if you're from out of town, you come and go. People want free security, so instead of paying guys, they want to act like, oh, we're all friends, till something happens, and then they act like, oh, the crazy gang members. But in a city, well, LA is mostly normal people. When I say a city full of weirdos, I mean the Hollywood people that are here from out of town trying to be in entertainment or coming here to do criminal things. You know how many girls fly into LA and trick guys into being their pimp for 2 weeks and then disappear with the money? Did you know that happens? That's a frequent thing. All kind of people come here to make money, and people want free security. Oh, I'm with these guys, I get in the club for free. And if you're a celebrity with some money, or you're from out of town, wheeling and dealing, you got some money, and you're interacting with guys that are active street gang members, they might be low income, like they trying to make some money and maneuver with people. And I've seen situations where it's more so people abuse fake friendships with them. No wonder sometimes they get mad or they want a fee to shoot something in their neighborhood. Remember, technically you're supposed to go get a permit from the city to shoot a video or anything. I think the law is once you put something on a tripod, but definitely if you got a street shut down and all that. I mean, I've shot things guerrilla. I've shot things where people paid. Did a movie where, there was like supposed to be shooting outside. They had to pay two Detroit police an hourly wage to be at each end of the block. So if you don't want to pay that fee, probably the neighborhood people do want a fee. There's always somebody trying to show up, take a picture with somebody, get some street cred. In a city full of weirdos, the gang members might be the best people you might meet. At least you know who they are. They are who they are. You meet people in LA that literally are posing as total other people. When I first got here, and I was, thinking, who am I gonna hang out with? I met a couple fake basketball players. They were real tall, and they would walk to the front and say, I played for such and such, and I lost my ID. They would just get let in. And then I realized they didn't have any money. So this is kind of off topic, but the subject of gangs and how they interact with the entertainment industry is something that gets talked about online all the time. Don't believe what you hear on the internet. And for a culture obsessed with knowing who's snitching, I don't know why people would be intimating all type of criminal cases online unless they weren't actually true. So if I make up a story about you that's totally absurd, is that snitching? Well, not really. Might be inappropriate, but so, and for all the people that is making money online telling stories, it's better than being a criminal. So I guess keep doing it. But for those of you that watch stuff thinking that you're getting real information, if everyone knows that someone did something, you think the police wouldn't know too? The streets of every city are full of snitches, paid informed, people that are just living in the neighborhood, that are neighborhood drug users, that are gang members. They get a couple $100 every week just to tell what's going on, or they don't get anything. A former cop I was interviewed in Detroit, shout out to GQ, he said his thing was when he was on Gang Squad, which in Detroit is like more, it's part of organized crime, so they were like trying to figure out who drug dealers were. He would go around to all the precincts, and people that were in the precinct because they got pulled over, suspended license or misdemeanor drug possession, minor stuff. People that were going to get out of jail in a few days. He would just say, well, yeah, I'll get you out a few hours earlier. I'll give you $50. Just tell me a name. Like, who do you hear is, who's the new guy in your neighborhood or whatever. And you go around and you do that for a week. You say you go to all the precincts on the east side of Detroit. And if you hear 8 different crackheads mention a certain name, then you might think, oh, well, maybe those guys are doing something. And you go look into them. So it's not hard for the police to, I don't, Big U's never even questioned in Nipsey Hussle's homicide. Seemed like a pretty open and shut case. And Eric Holder, though it is, I don't know the California parole laws, but as you see, his projected parole date, or maybe that's just his earliest and there's no chance he'll get out, but who knows, 2039. But I don't know why a guy that was sent to go do something would do it in front of everybody and then just go to trial and not, I don't know. Doesn't seem likely. And as far as what's going to happen to Eric Holder in prison, well, everybody in a maximum security prison did something bad to somebody. So don't assume that he's special. After a few years, he'll just be another face in the crowd. Everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people in a maximum security prison were on the news once upon a time, or face was in the newspaper. That's who's there. cop killers are there. All kind of people are walking around maximum security that are there for very high profile crimes. And it would be interesting to know why he's at a medical facility again. Maybe that's where they put people they're trying to protect to some degree. The action he did that I was told to not be around the neighborhood was kind of like what happened with Nipsey, something unexpected and inappropriate. It all makes sense to me.